All right, last one.
Oh.
Last one. All right, this is actually another direct question from a viewer. So, interesting one. It's kind of a good one to end on. Why do some instructors fade away while a few stay out there and relevant for years?
Well, you know my answer.
Actually, my answer is in that question, but so we do work in a world that has a lot of folks, whether they're valid, whether they're charlatans on the complete other end of the spectrum, or whether they're somewhere in the middle and they're staying in their lane. Why do some of them have a persistent influence on the community that we operate in, and why do some of them just flash in the pan?
Say it, Bob. Go ahead and say it.
Well, yeah, for me, what's never going to go away, which my business and everything I teach goes back to basics and fundamentals.
Agreed.
That'll never change.
Right.
Like, I mean, but for you, like, you're big on the vehicle stuff, that'll never change. There's always going to be vehicles, you know? Like, where is that ever going to stop?
Self-driving
cars. It's never going to stop. Well,
You're going to teach.
But yeah, like,
you're going to teach robots.
Relevant
get out of computer-operated cars and get into gunfights.
But relevant stuff.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, and that's why I said I think the answer's in the question. It says, while a few stay out there relevant for years, it's relevancy. And basics keep you relevant, and I think that's a subject that's missed. Everybody wants to do sexy, but the basics.
Right, and sexy. Some of the sexy stuff that leads up to the basics is not gonna work in every situation.
Right.
But being able to shoot the basic fundamentals of the carbine or the pistol will never change.
And I think the industry's seen,
no matter what situation you're in,
until the carbine is replaced by a superior.
Well, then, where we're doing this, on the
and then we're all going to look for something different to do for a living.
I think that is absolutely.
I think so as well. I think that
guys that are teaching the latest and greatest stuff that don't
build it on the basics,
and they don't transfer to every situation. Well, then it's only going to work for.
And I think that's your flash in the pan stuff. I think that's those people that rise to glory for a short amount of time, but can't carry it over the long haul because their base, their foundation, the substance of what they do is not there. It's not relevant, like I said, over the long haul. It's only that neat.
If you were
new
teaching
thing.
only jungle training stuff in the Vietnam era when it came to Iraq, Afghanistan stuff, well, that wouldn't transfer over.
Right.
You know?
You'd have been the hottest thing in the world during the Vietnam War.
Right, exactly.
But you would have been completely irrelevant.
So I think that's what keeps you.
When the conflict shifted.
Yeah, I think.
Or just being able to adapt to any situation, like, you know, depending on where and we should be talking civilian side. So,
sure.
And that's why, to me, it always goes back to just the shooting, because
they're not going to be clearing a room under quad tube
exactly.
nods.
And it doesn't matter what AO they're in, you know, like.
You're not going to be wearing that body armor in your house.
Are we operating in the Southcom or the CENTCOM area at this time? Yeah, obviously that's not what a civilian shooter is looking at. But what a civilian shooter is looking at, regardless of how they're going to apply these techniques and these tactics that we teach them, what they're really going down to is, if they have those basics, they can do it in their house, they can do it in their car. Yeah. They can do it in a mall. They can defend their home, their people, their self.
Because the guys that are coming up with these wazoo methods, when they're proven wrong, well, then they go away. Guys that are teaching the shit that just works all the time.
That's what I said.
They're gonna stay.
They rise to notoriety, or I guess it's notoriety. When you get on those social media forums, but
it's Kardashian.
But they fall for grace. Yeah, they fall from grace because their tactics, their techniques, their procedures don't follow. And I keep going back to TTPs because that's kind of our base. But I go back to them because that's the practical application. That's what you look at, is how do we practically apply that in a certain situation or in a broad set of situations. And I think the answer to the question is the people that last over the long haul are the people that build on the basics, and then figure out a way to make that application work across the broader spectrum.
Yeah, and that's a long-term strategy too that I think a lot of the newer guys getting into the training industry just don't understand is because of social media, like it resets every day, or reset isn't the best way to describe it, but it progresses every day. There's a 24-hour news cycle.
Who looks the coolest?
Yeah,
and who's
and
the fastest?
So what's the most frustrating thing to see, and it sucks to see it sometimes, is like a guy from our community will realize the power of social media and the trends that make you popular but don't esteem you, and he'll chase that short-term strategy. Like a guy will be like, bro, I just got sponsored by a holster company. Like, dude, you're a fucking E8 Green Beret Ranger MFFJM. Like, don't sell yourself short because like, I got like, 1,000 extra followers on Instagram because I did this thing. Like,
Right.
You gotta hustle, but like, look at the long-term picture, dude,
Right.
because if you're doing something that someone else with no background can replicate, like if you build your entire platform off of like, oh, I do my cool draw videos or whatever, and all right, in 6 months, someone else is gonna do that, all right? And I think that's why they fade away, is because, they get attracted to just the attention, that they're getting. And it gives you this validation, but it's like, yeah, but who's validating you? Are agencies coming to you and saying, hey, let's do a course? Or is it like, some guy who, maybe has no clue what he's talking about?
Yeah, who are you talking about?
Yeah. Or is Bob Keller coming up to you saying, hey, Brett? I think that's what in any industry defines, who stays there the longest. Now, obviously, that's changed with social media because I think we've seen that you can recover from scandal.
You can.
Yeah.
Anything?
You can recover from anything.
The phoenix rises from the ashes. Yeah.
But people pay attention and they have memories. So.
Well, I think ultimately for the viewers or anyone who's listening to this, it comes down, what are they teaching? Is it actually going to save your life?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's how you got to look at it. Or, I mean, if you're there for the weekend just to have fun, I mean, then it doesn't matter.
And if
but if you're going,
like we said,
okay,
yeah.
right, which I said, totally okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't do that. I don't do any classes like that. But ultimately, if you're going to a class to learn how to save your life, well, that's how you should be looking at, how is this instructor teaching?
Right.
Like, what is he what is he teaching? Does it make sense? Does it work? And is it going to save my life? I would say that's what the relevant shit is.
And I think collectively as a group, we all share that common thought because,
Absolutely.
well, we've been taught all our careers that you think tactically, but your outlook is strategic. It's global. So you got to win this fight, but you also got to figure out how does that translate for the rest of the world, for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
It's that long-term goal thinking that you were talking about. And we've all been taught that because that's kind of how we're taught to think, strategic versus tactical. You got to have the tactical because you got to win the fight, but you also got to win the battle of war and inevitably the future. And I think that's really the answer to the question, is that defines whether or not an instructor stays relevant and stays popular.
Yeah, is he doing something you could do through enough repetitions, or is he,
Through enough situations, and everything else. Does this apply all the way across the board? And I think that's what makes. That's what makes.
But that being said, too, I mean, about relevancy, I mean, there are people that just want to have that weekend fun, so that's.
And you know what?
Those guys could be relevant too, because if they keep doing the wazoo shit that makes people happy, because all they're doing is getting their freaking gun off. I mean, whatever.
And if they self-identify that that's what they're looking for out of the set, they say, "Hey, I'm just here for the shoot."
Well, it's space camp. I had a guy explain it to me. It's like, it's like,
that's another
but
good
like
example.
some of
I'm gonna use that one.
some of the coolest shooters I know are guys that recognize they're going to space camp. Like I have a guy that signs up for my classes. He shows up to the class wearing normal clothes, like jeans and a t-shirt. He'll change into all his cool guy gear. After the class, he'll change out of it. He's just like, hey, for me, I'm gonna use maybe a part of this if I find myself in the situation, but like, I just like it. It's a hobby,
right, it's a
which is a very small percentage of people that are like, no, bro, like, I'm just looking for a reason. Like, really? Like, because that's kind of dangerous. Yeah, like I don't want to be anywhere near you, you know?
It's all about
Yeah,
saving
I gotta
yourself.
prove
Not
myself.
about looking for it.
ISIS hunter. Like, bro, you're 30. You could have joined the army and like, wait, fought again. Wait, hold on. What? Can you explain this to me?
Are you really an
are
ISIS
you
hunter?
really an ISIS?
Or are you a sticker buyer?
All of my opinions are so important that they're expressed in bumper stickers on my gun case.
So, kind of interesting group of questions.
Was that it?
You know, it's funny. So I look at I look at like the questions we've been through, and I look at what we talked about. I almost wonder if taking these questions created as many more questions about because based on our responses.
They did.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It actually. Funny thing is it actually caused dialogue amongst us to question some of the questions. I think it's interesting. I think it's unique that the viewers want to look at us and say, hey, you know, tell me what you think about this. I'm sure that this will generate other questions.
Well, I was just
You know,
gonna say, we could go on
based
for another
yeah, exactly.
4 or 5 hours.
I'm sure if we all signed in right now, we could all, you know.
Right now,
Yeah,
there's
we
like
all
some
log in.
Instagram famous person who's like, no, he's wrong.
No,
it's
no,
the flashy
confusing.
shit that
Yeah,
works.
yeah.
Sign up for my class. You know.
But it's awesome. Yeah, man, it's good to see you guys. I appreciate you. Like meeting up and fielding these questions, having a drink and hanging out. It's like I said, I'm sure it'll generate more. We'll probably have to do this again just to answer all the questions created from the questions that we made.
hundreds.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But it's yeah, I like this kind of dialogue. I think it's good. I think it's healthy, and I think it's interactive. You know, we live in such a new world that things are short term like that. You know, with the Facebook, the Instagram, all of the different kinds of avenues that people could communicate through social media, it's almost instantaneous. So being able to field questions like this and being able to take that feedback direct from the folks that interact with us, I think it's good. I think it's a real good thing.